Hello everyone, I am Shashwat from EDC, the Entrepreneurship and Development Cell of IIT Delhi. We present to you our flagship event, BCon 2021, which is one of the largest entrepreneurship conclaves of India. Now I'll be playing an informative video of BCon 2021.
Within, from the heart, from the core. This is the core of our nation, untouched, left behind by today's growth story. Meet these young change makers. They had the courage to follow their hearts into the heartland of the nation.
I realize that if they get any form of alternate livelihood, which will benefit them to stay here instead of having to go out, and which they can work, in the comfort of their house, and because there is so much bamboo around them, I realize this is something that I would like to work with.
So when I came here, I chose to work on their health aspects. Since these people are working in nearly, above 45 degrees Celsius under the sun, what happens is they suffer from dehydration. And since these people have been working in the same style for their entire life, their whole body becomes chronically dehydrated.
தண்ணியெல்லாம் அதிகம் சாப்பிட வேண்டியதாக இருக்குது. ஆனால் சாப்பிட முடியுதில்லை. பக்கத்தில் வந்து எல்லா ஆண்கள்லாம் வேலை பார்த்துக்கிட்டிங்கிறதுனால நம்ம தூரத்தில் போக வேண்டியா இருக்குது. அதனால அங்கிட்டு போக முடியுதில்லை.
With the belief that things could be different, they committed a year of their lives to the SBI Youth for India Fellowship. to ride the waves of change as leaders. The fellowship allows these young change makers to follow their passion, be it in education, health, livelihood, or any aspect of rural development.
லெட்டினை கட்டி கொடுத்தது இப்போ ரொம்ப வசதியாக இருக்குது.
Because of these activities, I'm able to provide some kind of value to the society. Not only society, but as well as myself.
जो सब लोग आएंगे उसके हम सलाह लेकर और उसको हाथ पकड़ कर थोड़ा आगे बढ़ेंगे.
पूजा मैडम बोल रहे थे हम खुद लोग इसका मार्केटिंग करें आगे जाके.
ஒரு யூஸ்ஃபுல்லான பொருளையும் நீங்க கொடுத்தீங்க, அதனால நாங்க தைரியமா இருப்போம். இனிமே நாங்க எதுவும் கூச்சப்பட மாட்டோம். ஒரு எல்லாத்தையும் ஃபேஸ் பண்ற அளவுக்கு இருப்போம்.
जिसको नहीं काउंटर कुछ भी नहीं आता, वो एक्सेल शीट वर्ड में काम कर सकते हैं, पेंटिंग वगैरह सब बना सकते हैं.
பெரிய பெரிய ஒரு நல்லது எதுவுமே நாங்க எதிர்பார்க்கவே இல்லைங்க. ஆனா இப்ப சாதாரணமா நீங்க சிம்பிளா ஒரு இது செய்யணும்னு வந்திருக்கிறது வந்து எங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப மகிழ்ச்சி அளிக்கிறது.
You have to try it yourself. You are the decision maker, and it all depends on you. It all comes down to you.
The cliched unconditional love that we all hear about, we actually get to see it here.
That we should be promoting humanity. We should be promoting being together.
Yes, change starts from within, from here, and gathers into a movement to fuel change.
Today we present to you our special guest, Ms. Grusha Victor, a SBI Youth for India alumnus, who will be talking about the SBI Youth for India Fellowship. The fellowship is a 13-month-long program that enables the nation's youth to work on rural development projects in partnership with experienced organizations and individuals. The fellowship provides a framework for India's best minds to join hands with rural communities. SBI has partnered with a large number of NGOs and work on diverse projects in 12 broad thematic program areas, which cover the entire gamut of rural development. Ms. Grusha has done Bachelor of Arts with her field of study being Economics and Political Science with Mass Communication and Entrepreneurship, Center for Advanced Learning from St. Stephen's College of Delhi University. She is now a development consultant, and as stated above, she has been an SBI Youth for India alumnus. Ms. Grusha worked there with partner NGO BAIF Development Research Foundation, the project location being Jawhar, Palghar district in Maharashtra. Her project was aimed at creating livelihood opportunities through indigenous means. She later continued working for BAIF post her fellowship as well. Ms. Grusha has now also worked with Kirloskar, Vasundhara, Amity University, IIT Bombay, Bharatiya Vidyapeeth, Pune, TLWP, Aumtara Foundation, BOSCO, Envo Sustainer, and various organizations in the organic food sector. Now may I request Ms. Grusha to kindly talk about the fellowship in detail with us. Over to you, Grusha.
Hello, good evening, everyone. As Shashwat said, my name is Grusha and I'm an SBI fellow, alumnus.
I think there are some technical difficulties we are facing, and we'll be back to you in a minute, as soon as possible.
Hello. Hi. I'm so sorry for the glitch. I hope you all can hear me now. Shashwat, I'll just need a check from you.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes,
you're
audible
and visible. Grusha?
Your screen has frozen again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are we
Now
back? Okay. Great. Okay. So I'm so sorry for the glitch. I'll start again. So I'm an alumni of the SBI Youth for India Fellowship Program. I'm here to share my journey with you, which I believe is also an entrepreneurial journey. And I'm really thankful to IIT Delhi, to SBI Foundation for inviting me here and for the Entrepreneurship and Development Cell to share my journey and my experiences. I hope it will be of use to you and in your journey. So I'll just start sharing the PPT here, and I would love it to be an interactive session. So feel free to drop in your questions at any point of time. I would love to take them up there and then. So as Shashwat introduced me, I'm a fellow, I'm a development consultant. And through my fellowship journey, I've worked on entrepreneurship models, and I'm working towards building an initiative called the Grusha Tribal Creative, which is an output of all my learning and my experience of living with the tribal communities and the sustainable way of living. So it's a design solution for green businesses. In the past, as Shashwat mentioned, I've worked with various development sector organizations. But if you ask me personally, who am I? I'll probably say I'm a traveler, designer, and yoga teacher. And these are some of my personal learnings that I've brought together and used it in my career. So as you know, the fellowship is a 13 months long program with each fellow posted in a rural or a tribal location, left there with a partner NGO to discover himself and the community. For me, it was a great journey in this small place called Jawahar. And when I think about my fellowship journey, I can very well say that this quote does full justice to it. I never knew the person that I became after the fellowship. I never would have thought that I could become that person or feel those things and know those things or have that experience that can transform me. So as rightly said, a single event can awaken within us a stranger, totally unknown to us. And through this, you learn to slowly born again, relive again, unlearn, and go through this entire journey, which you are not just discovering, but curating for your own self. So fellowship is a call to go on that journey within and outside, to experience the stranger within and to know the stranger outside. For me, I was posted in this pristine location called Jawahar in Palghar district in Maharashtra. And it's a beautiful land of tribal culture, wisdom, and it's like a monsoon paradise. So when we landed there in August, and I was just in some poetic trance, I was trying to just, take in as much fresh air as possible, just enjoying all those different shades of green, all those beautiful unknown vegetables and fruits from everywhere. And I was just like totally overwhelmed by the experience in the first month itself. But luckily, the fellowship gives us quite a few months before we start working on the project to experience the culture, to experience the place, to go around, to discover. So we I mean, it's 4 months, it's raining like crazy in Jawahar. You get to know these people while you're traveling across for these 2 weeks, trying to go ahead and understand the context, the culture, the traditions of the place, trying to find your role where you can fit in, where can, you can be that person who comes and changes the community or the community changes you. So while you're discovering, you're going around, and this place is like beautiful. It's in middle of nature, and you'll see sometimes these, kacha houses. If people are, they get this benefit of the housing scheme, they go ahead and make pakka houses also. But then mostly you see villages and hamlets surrounded by greenery. You'll see the simple style of living. You'll, coming from a very urban, from a very different background, certain things, even the smallest thing at times just awaken you. And those moments of, thinking, those moments of analyzing how things are so different back here. And do we really need so many things in our life to feel happy, to feel fulfilled? Because when I went here, I could see people living on literally what they just need and being happy about it. There were so many transitions that was happening inside me. And I was questioning and learning and understanding all about the things and experiences I was going through. You'll see people and animals, they're literally coexisting. Their basic livelihood activities are, they depend on the cattle, they depend on farming, and you'll see there's this traditional method of farming. You'll get to know about these traditional knowledge systems, these traditional food systems, how people have survived from years and years and years on these indigenous seeds, on this nutrition that they get from Mother Earth. And their respect towards this culture, their respect towards their land and their connectivity, their coexistence with nature. It is very difficult to see that kind of relation, with when we're living in the cities. There's so many things we don't think about. There's so many ideas we would be a stranger to if we don't open ourselves to experiences. So getting to know these people, getting to know different cultures is a very important part of a learning, not just, on an individual level as a human being, but also on the part of entrepreneurship. These ideas, while you're traveling across these towns and little cities, you come up with n number of ideas and you try to implement some, and then you try to iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate. And that's what entrepreneurs do. Everything is changing. They adapt, they iterate n number of times. So it's this background learning for an entrepreneur that is taking place while you're experiencing these cultures. So you get to know about their activities, their livelihoods. For example, this is the tadiwala. So in the morning, if you drink this palm extract, it's called Nira, which is a great probiotic. And then if you have it in the evening, it's alcoholic beverage and it's called tadi. So, I mean, I didn't even know about that. So that's something just the little things, just opening up your mind to different cultures. The livelihood is scarce. The livelihood is scarce there. There's migration, there's distress migration to a large extent. How, when you see these limited scope of livelihood within a community, how do you tackle it? Your mind constantly, you want to work on a livelihood project, you start questioning each and everything that these people are doing. Why are they doing? Is this subsistence? How are they living at that much? So, you this constant questioning and iterating your thoughts is what leads you in shaping your ideas. So these were they had daily wage labor. as livelihood. They had farming, and then they had some bamboo workers, tadi workers. So basically these, right? And then there were traders from outside who was, who had shops and they were selling. So that's more or less the livelihood scenario in the village. Not just this village, probably most of the villages in India. And lack of livelihood is one of the biggest reasons that people are migrating, and we all know that. Apart from that, there are different issues that come together, because livelihood is just not because of a single reason. It exists because there are different reasons around it that had given rise to that situation. Lack of livelihood, lack of employment is a situation which is forced by different elements. So that may be environmental degradation, that could be corruption, and I mean, the list goes on. But how can you work on these things all together and provide a solution to the situation that you see there? For example, here, after this monsoon paradise, I saw it converting into all shades of brown from all shades of green. So there was shortage of water. After the monsoon, people, like the women, have to walk distances to carry water. And it's quite far they need to walk, 5, 7, 8, 10 kilometers to fill just those 2 vessels of water. But the funny part is, I used to be surprised. I was like, are you actually smiling? This is, I couldn't interpret that. I'm like, okay, this is tough. It's crouching heat. Some of them don't wear the footwears. And you are walking all this distance to get 2 pots of water. It's still happy. So that's one secret we need to analyze. So then it's, this beautiful monsoon paradise is all shades of brown, and there's then distress migration taking place, there's water scarcity, and then there's the life of the village. You see all these kids, and the villages are totally swarming with kids, like they're everywhere. And you'll just understand like how much they add to the community, even though there is a lot of problems in the community, but the kids are really taken care of. The mothers are the heroes of the family. Apart from all of that, there's a high level of malnutrition that exists in villages in India. How do we tackle these? These are all, why is there malnutrition? The parents can't provide, there's not enough nutrition in the environment. So all of these factors, how do we solve so many problems? So at a point of time comes when you become really overwhelmed by all these experiences, by all these happiness and sadness and emotions that you see in people, and you try to think, how can I provide a solution to everything? How can I come up with that one idea that solves all the problems? And maybe you would, maybe you won't, because all these communities, especially if you talk about the tribal communities, they live so close to the nature. They live in coexistence with the nature. So a lot of things, a lot of problems that they face is not just a temporary problem that can be solved. These are long-term problems. These are environmental problems. These are political problems. These are economical problems. So where do you contribute? And while you're on this journey in trying to analyze where you could contribute, you are actually on a better journey within yourself in trying to understand your own potential, your own capability. We sit in classrooms, we learn, we get good grades, we have excellent jobs. But when you're experiencing something and not just reading about it, you know way more than you could have ever known about those situations. And that makes you equipped for the future, for your future, of being a problem solver, of being an entrepreneur, of being a leader of your nation, of your community, of, wherever you go, because you have experienced things firsthand and you've solved those problems. So these smiling faces were always a break for me, and used to climb trees. I used to play with them. It used to be a lot of fun. I mean, apart from all the, all the very heavy stress talks and, breaking out of your own comfort zone and trying to understand the community, and because you've come from somewhere else and you don't know how these things are and you're totally different to it, and sometimes it's a shock to you. But then, you also find these little things in the community where of love, of kindness, of patience, of being together, of the importance of being together. And those are also some really important learnings. And what do I tell you about the women? The women are like, they're the backbone of the community. They take care of agriculture, they participate in agriculture, they work as daily wage laborers, they handle SHG groups, they take care of the house, they get water. I mean, literally they're doing everything. And eventually you know the place, you know the people, and you know the context, and you're trying to understand the culture, and you slowly are bringing them all together, and you're knitting the story in your head about these people. And then you're looking at it from the observer's point of view. Okay, so this is what is happening in this ecosystem. Now, where do I contribute? How do I contribute? And I think that's not just a question of the fellowship. A person who strives to be an entrepreneur or has passion for entrepreneurship will always have this question in mind. So these lovely women were also part of my project, and they helped me immensely. They were my teachers. I call them my teachers because there's a lot of things I didn't know that they taught me. For example, my project was on wild food. I come from a city. I say very jungly hai. I'll get poisoned, I'll die, and I have all those paranoia. But that's not true. And they taught me about the nutritional value of wild food. They took me to the forest. They told me about the native foods, how if you eat this fruit, your stomach ache will go. If you eat this, it's a natural probiotic and things like that. I mean, I never came across a book that told me about it. So I really, if I wouldn't have gone for this, I think I would have missed a very, very big learning in my life. I used to go to Tai and I used to ask her about how do you make these things, this and that. I was just like a question mark kid, just inquisitive about everything. And so she used to be like, you listen, I'll tell you how it's done. I'll show you how it's done. So they themselves believed in practical knowledge. She wouldn't sit and tell me, okay, this is how it is, this is how it is. She'll take me to the jungle. She'll make me pluck the fruit. She'll bring me home. She'll tell me how to cook it. So it was just a different kind of education for me. So the patent food was fish and rice, and you'll see all these, old technologies being used in the village. I was just totally fascinated. And so these are some of the wild foods. This is a wild variety of the fig. This is called the jungle brinjal. I was surprised. I was like, this smaller brinjal, how will I make bharta out of it? So, but all this knowledge, going to the villages and getting to know, I am not a botany student. I didn't know about wild food, vegetables, tribal communities, culture. I was just inquisitive. And I think every entrepreneur is. Every entrepreneur is an inquisitive person. And if you go ahead and you ask and ask and ask, and you want to find your answers. So my learning came from them. I didn't know about any of these things, what they are, what they do. And in a span of 13 months, I learned so much. And I started working on something of the community. I couldn't believe my own self. I couldn't believe my own potential. I was, being opened up to a whole new me, a whole new dimension of me. So all this wild food is also a very important part of their culture. I mean, living close to nature has not just impacted their, their lifestyle, but their culture, their art, their music, and everything, their medicine system. They have these tribal healers called Baidus. Now, here what you see is an indigenous variety of cucumber. This is not hybrid variety. This is not GMO, nothing. It rains so much in those regions in 4 months. This is just a product of the rain. No additional inputs into it. I was just amused. A very simple diet, the simplicity of living. How we complicate everything in our lives, how we try to go on these diets and trends and fads and everything. But a very basic, simple, nutritious food. So there's agriculture produce, that chapati that you see, those vegetables that you see are all from the forest. And the culture is so that each tribe has their own god, and they also consider their elders who have passed away as gods. Now that tells us something very important about the community and its belief system, what it respects, and how do you need to be culturally sensitive. It's a world of globalization. We can't limit ourselves to our cultures, to our belief systems, and we can't just function on them. So getting to know about different cultures there and being sensitive about those cultures is very important, not just as a part of the fellowship, but for your own future. Here you see is a medicine man who's called the Vaidu, and those are the different gods that his community worships. This is called the Hirva Dev. It's one of the gods that you'll find in all the homes. It's like peacock feathers wrapped inside a red cloth, and you see this in the agriculture go down of all the homes. This is from the festival of Holi. A very bizarre thing I got to know about the Holi in the tribal region was, so at the there's a tree in the middle, a dried tree that they're burning, and they're like branches around it. And at the end, at the tip of the tree, they tie a chicken. And then they light the thing on fire. And whoever gets the chicken is like, it's the most auspicious day for him. It's good luck and all of that. So you'll see the kids of the villages just staying there because of the chicken. Also, it's nicely roasted. The belief system is very different. I being from a different faith, it was very, very, very different for me. But you always, open up to these things. You always show your curiosity. I was always open to know about their faith, and that's why, being from a different religion too, I was invited to most of these pujas and festivities where people, it's a very closed community affair. So it's very important that you don't restrict yourself by your own preconditioning, your belief systems, your fears, or whatever it is. If you have to go, you have to experience all these things, all these journeys to understand them, to understand the community, but to also reflect upon yourself. This is from tribal wedding. This is called mawa. It's a flower, and they ferment it and make the local liquor. So there are so many discoveries and so many amusing things that one sees in the village. This is the tribal art. It's called the Varli painting, and it's actually a pictorial language where the artist talks about his village, his traditions, his customs, dance form, and all of that. It's not just a painting. It's actually a whole language altogether. So connected with nature, so connected with, the feeling of spirit of community these people are. This here is called an instrument. It's called tarpa. So it's a wind instrument. The above part that you see is made of wattle cord. The lower is wrapped palm leaves, and there's some honey used and some bamboo. So it's all from the nature. And this person, he has incredible knowledge of the tribal system, of nature, and he has a very strict and disciplined diet and rituals that he follows. Usually, you know, in places like these, there are artists, musicians, and vaidus, tribal healers. They stay outside the community villages. They stay in seclusion and they practice their own meditation and their own art form. This is some festivity from the school where the Tarpa singer was there and all the kids were dancing around. It was one of the very beautiful and joyous monsoon evening. This here is called a gangli. It's like a tribal veena, again made of wattle cords and bamboo and wood. We just look at this lifestyle. We are here in, you know, in these cities, in these big cities, striving hard, people, businesses, everyone's striving hard to move towards sustainability and, you know, a more planet-friendly, eco-friendly way of life. And here are these communities who already know how to do it. We could just go and learn from them. This is called the Thalga, and here this Kaka, he's around 98 years old, and he walks 6 to 7 villages whenever he's called for an event. It's a pretty simple instrument. It's a copper thali, and there's a stick of a tree called ambadi, and he's literally just going up and down on the string, and there's a certain vibration that's produced, a very meditative vibration, and a slight sound that is used for various puja ceremonies. He's 98 years old, and he walks, and he's fit, and he sings like as if he's just 20. This is another culturally important thing of the region. It's called Buhara. So earlier these were made of wood, but now here the mask that you see is made of paper mache, and it depicts different gods of different tribes. Here's one such festival in which it's actually a man who's dressed up like the woman. It's a very different culture. I mean, we would find it strange, but also you'll be very curious to learn about these. So this was about the place, this was about the people, this was about the culture and the food. Now, how all of this took a turn for me on the journey to entrepreneurship is now what I'm going to discuss. For me, I saw the whole place and I observed it. I spoke to people, we went around, visiting artists, healers, everyone, NGOs, also government officials, trying to understand the place as much as possible. And then I realized there are certain issues. Of course, all of them were interrelated, but for me, the solution to all these issues was to provide a sustainable livelihood. There was lack of livelihood opportunities, of course, and then there was loss of indigenous knowledge and resources, the environmental degradation, also the breaking down of family structure was a very big cause in, not in as a problem that was existing in the community as a whole, because grandparents weren't able to stay with the family because the family was migrating out. This whole knowledge, this whole oral knowledge traditions were going away. Lastly, the empowerment of tribal women. You'll see them doing a lot of work, but then they were literally suffering because they were overburdened. Men had some problems of alcoholism, and it was a constant state of financial crisis. So for me, I realized, to bring all of these things together, I need to work on something that's of the region. People know it. It's not an alien technology, and they can earn a livelihood out of it. and I need to empower women. So this is what I wanted to go ahead with. I wanted to create a sustainable livelihood opportunity through wildfood resources for tribal women of Jawahar. So then, I started making some groups. I started with a very basic family model. I went to one of my Thais and I said, "Meko ye start karna hai, let's try it out. मैं पुणे ले जाके बेचूंगी आपका सामान, देखते हैं कैसा होता है." So I had this idea of tribe, herbal tea and herbal coffee. So we started making some initial batch, did some pilot, and then we were able to execute the pilots successfully. And then the women, more and more women got interested. They were like, okay, even I want to do this. I want to do this. So they had the spirit of, I realized they had the spirit of entrepreneurship in them already. They were motivated. I didn't have to go to them and tell them, see, this works. Why don't you also do it? They just saw it in the neighbor's house. This thing is happening and it's successful, and we can all be a part of it. It's convenient for them. They're doing it at their homes. So it's easier. Let's start doing it. And slowly, around 35 women came together and we started making a whole lot of products from forest produce. So we had the berry sharbats, we had mawa laddus, we had herbal tea, herbal coffee. And this was all within a very short period of time, because it's 13 months. And it really seems quite less after you're, already so much into the community, already you understand the ecosystem so much. We've made some indigenous seed rakis. So everyone, most important part about this entrepreneurship journey was, it didn't just teach me. I believe it motivated all of them. And they had this the spark of innovation coming up, because we used to literally experiment with products. And it was initially me trying to, play around with products and make something out of it. And then eventually my Thais start calling me. They're like, okay, if we do this, if you mix this with that, how do you think? I said, try. So we opened up like a DIY lab in the village, and they were experimenting and making things and just calling me up, giving me ideas. Okay, let's do this, let's pilot this. So it's that spirit, it might not be 13 months, might not be enough to, get that financial and economical target, but it might just be enough to give people that sense that they can do whatever they want to do, especially to these women. For me, was the most important part. And I could see their confidence blooming. I sent them to Nasik, Mumbai, Pune to participate. We taught them accounting, basic mathematics, all bank operations. They went out, they bought their uniforms. And it was blooming. It was just wonderful to see all of this. They participated in SIDBI, they met the tribal department officials. It was a good journey for them. And I could see the confidence building each day, every day. For these women, they have never been out of their villages. They went to Mumbai, they went to Pune, they went to Nashik. What else is an entrepreneur? We also did these festivals. Important part was, this is food, wild food. It's a part of a culture, and culture has so many different dimensions. So we wanted to bring that whole wild food culture, the tribal culture together. So we joined hand with different organizations. This is one such with Bombay Canteen in Mumbai, where we supplied the fresh wild produce, and Chef Zach made these amazing contemporary dishes out of it. He visited the villages, made vegetable dishes with the women. So they were really motivated, and they always believed in their ideas henceforth. These are some products, wild food products that Chef Zach made. We did some Pali painting workshop. We did these traditional indigenous gifts. Like, just bring in more and more and more culture, just to revive the culture. We brought in urban kids to the village, that interaction was so important. It might not have been the exact thing that we needed for the entrepreneurship project, but it had to be there, is what I felt is important for the community level. Because nothing is, nothing is in silos, it's all interconnected. These were the kids from Bombay, I guess, and they had this Bali class sessions. They went to the dam, they walked on the field. It was beautiful. I still remember one of their mothers calling me up and telling me, her kid couldn't get over this feeling of this weekend in the village for the longest time. So for me, I believe this fellowship was a window that opened up me to myself and to a journey towards entrepreneurship. Apart from just, working with the community on a project, I did enjoy my time there. I did lots of things. I traveled from villages to villages. I imbibed myself in the culture, interacted with kids. I used to show them movies on weekends. I used to teach yoga in Zilla Parishad school. So it's very, very exciting, and it's interesting to interact with so many people. So that was my journey. And if I could sum it up, the learnings that I have from my SBI Youth for India Fellowship is, of course, entrepreneurship. Second, community engagement. I mean, at least me, living in urban areas, we just lose the sense of community for some reason. It's probably a virtual community is more stronger than a real community. Stakeholder management, importance of innovation and creativity, not just for your own self or for your own business, but to propagate that in the ecosystem. It was a great opportunity for self-growth and development for me. And most of all, it taught me how to let go of my fears, of my predefined beliefs, my internal and external resistance. And over this period of the past 2 years where I've been on this entrepreneurship track, I realized that entrepreneur is a leader, not just to the teams, it's also to the customer, also to the client. And that leader has a lot of responsibility. And the simple you make things, the easier it is. Try to uncomplicate your life. Perseverance, determination, strength are your pillars. Seek for clarity of thoughts. Believe in yourself and also believe in the people around you. And never think that mistakes are the end of the world. As I said before, entrepreneurs are always iterating. Okay, this doesn't work out. Let's try that. This doesn't work out. Let's try that. So keep iterating and always focus on team, customer, and cash. So as I said, entrepreneurship is a passion, just like love. So it's better to have loved and lost rather not to have loved at all. So go ahead in your journey of entrepreneurship, but stay ethical, remain ethical. Don't try shortcuts that won't succeed. Always uphold to your value system. Let humility be your first form of defense. Always be humble in your approach and never be aggressive. It doesn't pay in the long run. You should always feed your hunger to solve issues, strive for more. There's no limit to that. Be a student for life. Strive for continuous learning. So just like Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try. So you need to believe in yourself. You need to believe that you can and you will. And follow the do philosophy, as I say. So just like back in the fellowship, do not wait, solve every problem. or to help out everybody. Start, have your intent, act on it, break your inertia. That will build up the momentum. Trust people. And you have to dream big to achieve your goals. You need to dream big. Ask for help. We can't take care of everything. We need help. Always be free to ask help. Celebrate the smallest victories and always know your values. I would like to end with this, that your belief and no doubt in your heart is very important for your own goals and in your journey of entrepreneurship. So call your dip, dream, imagine, and believe. Thank you so much. And I'm open to questions. Please feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you, Grusha, for sharing your lovely journey, and it was such an interesting talk. And you gave such important points of entrepreneurship to our budding entrepreneurs who have come to on 2021, looking forward to go in their careers and become great entrepreneurs. And we hope that they got to learn a lot. And a couple of questions that we received, which I would like to ask you was. So the first one is that how did you actually get into the scholarship in the fellowship, and what was the inspiration? What made you think that I should actually go for something like this?
Right. So I've always been a very curious person in terms of the cultures in India. I love traveling. I used to love exploring. And I always wanted to work at the grassroots level. That was something I had in mind, or at least have a grassroots experience. I applied for the fellowship. There's applications are actually open now, so you can apply for the fellowship right now. There's application process. You have a round of interview. There's a small test, and a selected few gets join the fellowship and are placed with the top NGOs of the country. For me, I was with BAIF Development Research Foundation, which is one of the most renowned NGOs in the development sector. So my inspiration has been my curiosity, my will to explore cultures and to have the maximum exposure and to experience as much as I can, because for me, that is the learning that drives me. Also, the more you experience, the more you learn about your own country, about your, that village in your state, the more you know about your roots, the better you are at solving the problems as an entrepreneur.
Yes, that's very important for an entrepreneur to be connected to the ground. Another question which we got was, having studied in a metro city like Delhi, how did you cope up with the shift to going to a small village and living there, and what were the difficulties that you initially faced? Was it not that difficult? Was it a smooth ride, or were some things really strange and weird for you?
Right. So I was always open to it in a very happy way. I like change. And, if you go ahead towards anything with a positive outlook, most of the chances are that the output would be positive too, right? So I think, first of all, that is one thing that's very important. If you're up for an experience and you're positive that that experience will give you the learnings and whatever you want out of it, you will get it, right? Secondly, I was, my dad's been in the army. I've been from an army background, so we've traveled a lot. So in terms of being exposed to culture, I was quite exposed to a lot of culture, and I was very comfortable in traveling in rural parts. I love traveling. It was a dream to travel rural India. So it was lovely for me to get on a scooty, ride on the hilly terrain, go from one village to another, and always trying to search for that next thing, that next thing that surprises you, that thrill of knowing something, that you have never known before. So if all of those things are what, excite you, then you should go ahead too.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And last question I would like to ask you is that what value do you think it added to your professional life, apart from learning a lot of things about entrepreneurship and being connected with the ground, exploring India, all these, what value did it add to your professional life or your career, if you look at it from that point of view?
Right. So the whole fellowship experience is, it's like an, if you look at it, it's also like an on-the-job training. And it gave me a lot of confidence in, in tackling problems. It made me more comfortable in facing challenges. It made me a more, person who's more adaptable, more accepting. And of course, I learned community engagement. I learned stakeholder management. And at that level, stakeholder management is really something, because in rural India, for example, I had to go and apply for these funds for my group in the local tribal department. And it's just difficult to do that in those areas. First of all, the terrain, the network, all of those is a problem. But most of all, they're not, people don't have the right papers, their identity cards, this and that. The government official wants like hundreds of papers, and you have to go every day to the government office. They'll send you back and all of this. So you get those little learnings every day on how to tackle these situations. And those have helped me, that I've used in the development sector, even post my fellowship, and how to tackle those situations in terms of stakeholder management. And most of all, if I can tell you, I've learned a very hands-on way of systems level thinking. I know how I can step aside, I can look and analyze where I can contribute, where is my control, where I can get help, and all of those things, So it really depends on how you curate your own journey, but it's always in retrospect, and you join the dot backwards when you're you're up for a new task, and you realize I've done something like that, and you get that hands-on experience trigger in your mind. You can go ahead and do this too, so that any new challenge is not as threatening. And that has played a really important role in my professional journey.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I hope that motivates some of the people who are listening to go forward and join the fellowship and do the program. And I would again like to thank you so much for coming to BCon 2021 and talking with us, with EDC, with IIT Delhi, with the students of Delhi. And I hope they gained a lot from this session, and I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you so much, Grusha.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wrap it up.